Hello crafters and welcome back to the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. My name is Deepa from Designs by Dee, and today I'll be showing you a fun and quick faux emboss technique that allows you to use your dies to create an embossing look on your backgrounds. And the reason that you'd want to do this is if, say, you want your background to match the dies you're using in your foreground, but you don't actually have an embossing folder that matches. So this technique works perfectly for that. Now I'm going to be using the June Meraki Flora dies, and I'm only going to be using that piece that I have there that cuts out the two daisies. And then I'll also be using the Love Like No Other set just for the sentiment. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, what you want to do is pick a color for your background. I chose this muted blue. So I've cut a background out already. That was the panel I showed you at first. That panel is 4 inches by 5 1/4, so it's going to give me a bit of a border on my background. On my card base. And now I'm taking some more strips of the same color of cardstock and I'm cutting out these daisies. So here are the first two. Then I went ahead and I cut out a whole bunch more. So I cut out, I think maybe like 12 or 14 of these because I really want them to cover the background. And then I also cut out 6 of them in white cardstock. And I actually used white watercolor cardstock because it has this nice texture to it, and that was just the look I was going for. You could use any type of cardstock for the daisies that you're going to use for your focal point. You could use glitter cardstock, you could use mirror cardstock, anything you like. So before I continue and make my background, I do want to stamp out my sentiment. So I've grabbed the Love Like No Other set and I'm taking the Thinking of You stamp. I've got a strip of white cardstock here, and this is where I tend to use my scraps. So when I cut my my cardstock panels or my backgrounds, my card bases, I tend to keep the extra strips, and this is where I use them up. So I never really waste too much. So I'm just using some Versamark ink, some embossing ink, and I'm going to stamp out the sentiment, and then I'm actually going to use some Ranger Platinum embossing powder. Now this platinum embossing powder is really nice because it gives the look like it goes with a silver tone, but it has a hue of gold in it, so it kind of like lightens up the silver so it's not as harsh. So it really looks nice. It goes with any type of background, I think. If, say, maybe you're trying to fight between doing gold or silver, this is kind of like the in-between color. So I've gone ahead and I've heated that up and melted it to the cardstock, and then I cut like a slant on the edge there because it's just going to come in as a sentiment strip on this card. So now I'm grabbing my daisies, and I'm just going to simply use some liquid adhesive to attach this to the background in any which way. So this is where you can have fun with it. I'm really just creating a random background here. You could do it in a particular order and maybe line these up in a line so that it has more of a pattern to it. Mine's just going to be completely random. You can have some of the die cuts kind of overlapping each other because it's only one layer and it's flat. You're not really going to notice that. It gives it a little bit of dimension, but it really adds to that faux look. So basically the key to creating this faux emboss look is to use the exact same color that you do on your background on your die cuts. That is going to give it the look of like, oh, you kind of embossed the paper versus actually having attached die cuts to it. I think this is a really fun way to kind of change up your crafting, and it's really nice if you're the type of person that likes everything to kind of match. I have days where I'm really matchy is what I like to call it, and then I have days where it's like, I really don't care. I just do whatever I want to do, whether it matches or not, and somehow in the end it looks good. So sometimes you want that variation in your background, and sometimes you want it all to match. So this is just the way to get it all to match. So I'm really, as I said, not doing anything too, skilled here. I'm just attaching these, and you can see I'm using a larger acrylic block here just to add weight in between adding each piece. So that's actually important because remember, you want the emboss look, so you don't want these die cuts to be sticking off of your cardstock, which is what I normally do for my focal point dies because I want them to have more dimension and more of like a whimsical look. But here I want everything glued down completely flat. So make sure you get all the little bits on your die cuts that you're adding. You'll see that I have some of them coming off the edge, and there is a portion here that I'm not going to cover up, and the reason why is that's where I'm going to add my sentiment strip. It's just really it's just a waste of time. I mean, and I only cut so many daisies that I don't really have enough to actually cover that little bit there. I accounted for it when I cut out the daisies. Now you can see I cut off all the extra overhanging bits, and then there are some pieces that I can still add to the background. So I'm grabbing those and then I'm adding them again along the edge just to fill in the background there. So I can get rid of any of the littler or the smaller bits that I can't really add, and that's the final look of the background with that faux embossed look. You can see as it sits there on my table, it really has that look to it. So now I'm going to go ahead and work on the white daisies that I'm going to put in the foreground. So I'm actually just taking a pencil and I'm rolling the petals along the edge there to kind of give them a bit of a curve. This is giving it some dimension, it adds some interest, and it helps it stand off the background. As I mentioned, the background matches the foreground. So we have two levels of making your focal point stand out. One is that it's cut from a different color. And two, we're adding the extra dimension by one, actually there's three. I'm going to be adding foam to the back of these to attach them, so that's going to allow it to stand up a little further. Plus we're also curling the edges of those petals, which give it a bit more of a realistic look. So I'll go ahead and continue to do these for the 3 daisies, and as you can see, I did attach one layer on top of the other just to give them a bit more, to make the petals and the flower a bit more full. So now that I've put them together, now another thing I did want to mention is actually I told you I use watercolor paper for that because it has some texture. The more thick your cardstock is or textured, the more it's going to take to that curving of the edges. It actually worked out really nice. So now I'm attaching my background to the card base. That's just an A2 size white card base there. And I can attach my sentiment strip. So I'm going to use some more dimension here. I've got my foam adhesive. I'm going to add a strip here. And I'll just attach it coming off the edge. I can cut off this little strip there. And if you really wanted to stop here, you totally could. And then just really, you know, have that faux embossed background be the main focus of your card. But I have these white daisies, so I'm going to go ahead and add these here just around the sentiment strip. I did initially want to add like 2 near the top here and then have the 3rd at the bottom, but I think I put my strip a little bit too low. So you'll see me trying to fit it in there at the bottom, but that's clearly not going to happen. I put the foam on and then I'm still trying to fit it in at the bottom. That's not going to happen. So I do eventually just put it up there with the other 2 to have like the 3 as the main focal point there with the sentiment. And that's what the final card is going to look like before I add embellishments. So I'm going to be adding this Crafty Meraki sparkle embellishment. I believe this one's called Sparkle Magical Iris, and this is really nice because it's actually a clear gem. And it has facets around the top that have an AB finish to it. And I didn't know this before, but AB means Aurora Borealis, meaning that it shines all the colors of the rainbow, so the spectrum. So it's iridescent. So that's generally what it is. It's a clear gem with an iridescent faceted top, and it looks absolutely gorgeous with anything. I've put it in the center of my flowers and a bit on the background there just for a bit of interest. And that's the final card that I have for you today. You'll see that it may take a little bit of time to add all those daisies to the background, but the actual card design is simple. It's very easy to do, and you definitely get that faux embossed look that allows you to match your background to your focal point. So I hope you've liked today's video. If you have, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell for future videos. Everything that I've used today is listed in the description below, so you can go ahead and check out the shop. And I hope you have a great weekend, guys. See you again next time. Bye.